Hello, travelers! Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn. My name is Thomas the Human Bard, and I am joined today by...
Mercy the Tiefling Wizard.
Onog the Half-Orc Barbarian.
And Bean the Rock Gnome Rogue.
And on this episode of the Copper Fox Inn, we have another Unearthed Arcana. Deep Down. In which we will be covering Unearthed Arcana 2022, Character Origins. This is a part 2 of our series covering the Character Origins Unearthed Arcana, which is playtest material for the new edition of D&D / not a new edition, but a backwards compatible updated edition called 1D&D. We'll have linked below our video covering the rules glossary. But on this episode, we will be covering the Feats section. Feet.
Foot.
Nah.
I can't. I was hoping I could convince you to just start chanting feet, but then I would stop. So this document is brought to us by Jeremy Crawford with Christopher Perkins and Ray Winninger.
I find it crazy that deep inside this dungeon, the Sphinx has told us that we'll never make our way out until we review these feats. I feel like that's an oddly specific puzzle.
You know, when you're a DM, you gotta fill your dungeons up with any puzzles you can find. You know what I'm saying? Let's start here at the beginning. Feats. This section offers a collection of first-level feats, which are special features not tied to a single class. At first level, your character gains a feat from the character's background. Parts of a feat. The description of a feat contains the following parts, which are presented after the feat's name. Toes. At the end of the... Oh, no, we both did that! You got me, Onog. We both did the exact same joke. Level. Each feat has a level. To take a feat, your level must be equal to or exceed the feat's level. Prerequisite. You must meet any prerequisite specified in a feat to take that feat. If you lose a feat's prerequisite, you can't use that feat again until you regain the prerequisite. Repeatable. If a feat is repeatable, you can take it more than once. If it isn't repeatable, you can take the feat only once.
All of that made me feel like I was reading about a college course in a syllabus.
I mean, this is a 21-page document. It's pretty close to a syllabus, let me tell you. Feat descriptions. Here are the descriptions of feats mentioned in this document's backgrounds. The feats are presented in alphabetical order. This is why we're doing feats before backgrounds, because the backgrounds tell you what feats come with them, but you don't learn what those mean until now. So that's why we're covering the document in reverse order. So you'll know what they mean when we cover the backgrounds.
It's like how you're supposed to watch Star Wars out of order. You know, like this is just the better way to do it.
But it's also important to note that all of these feats, as long as they have no level or prerequisite, are eligible to be included with the new backgrounds, how they are set up.
Yes.
So,
Correct. Because the backgrounds mostly revolve around the concept that you get to create whatever background you'd like, and you just get one of these feats. But then they provide example backgrounds with examples of what feats might make sense.
But basically, any and all of these feats could be taken at level 1 at character creation.
Yeah. And we're not sure if this is going to be all the first level feats available, if this is just a sampling, or if these will be updated through feedback and playtesting. So let's see what they start with here with the Alert feat. Alert. First level feat. Prerequisite. None. Repeatable? No. Always on the lookout for danger. You gain the following benefits. Initiative proficiency. When you roll initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll. Initiative swap. Immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative with the initiative of one willing ally in the same combat. You can't make this swap if you or the ally is incapacitated. So this is a big change from what the Alert feat used to do.
Big old difference,
Which used to be something along the lines of you can never be surprised, more or less.
Yeah, the Alert feat has a static +5 bonus, whereas this one gives you, this Alert feat gives you a bonus equal to your proficiency, and you can't be surprised while you are conscious, and also importantly, other creatures don't gain advantage on attack rolls against you as a result of being unseen by you.
Oh. So those are all gone in this one. This one just has the proficiency bonus to your initiative and then initiative swap. But those sound like perfect opportunities for maybe a second level feat. Things that you could add on to a character who's already taken the alert feat. Things that you can, if they're going with tiered levels of feats, things like not being able to be surprised and that kind of stuff makes perfect sense to start putting into later feats that you get at higher levels that might be a little too strong in early game play.
Here, I have a semantics question. So the phrase repeatable, does that mean stackable? Like, what does that mean specifically?
So it only really applies to one of these feats, because all of the, from what I can see, all of them except for one are not repeatable. But for instance, certain feats give you specific kinds of bonuses that you choose. Currently in 5th edition D&D, there's a couple of repeatable feats, one of which is the Elemental Adept, where it's whenever you cast a spell that deals like lightning damage, it ignores resistance. But you can choose that feat more than once. You just choose a different element each time.
Okay, so it's not about how many times you can do a feat per day. It's if you're allowed to take that feat more
Multiple
than
times,
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This feat immediately made me think of one of your characters, Mercy, who's like a quick draw ranger character who is a ranger in the Gloomstalker subclass. And so it's
So good.
She's entirely built around like going first in combat. And the idea of even if you roll low, you can just swap initiatives with the ally who's going first in combat and say, let me go first instead.
As long as your allies are cool.
Well, probably it benefits the group for you to go first, as you get a bunch of benefits for going first.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
one of the really interesting things I was considering was if everyone in your party has this feat, you can more or less just decide how you'd like combat to go. Every combat.
You just choose who goes first.
Eventually, you're just
choose-
playing with alternate initiative
Yeah.
rules.
Everyone just decides who wants to go before who.
Yeah. Crafter, first level feat. Prerequisite, none. Repeatable, no. You are adept at crafting things and bargaining with merchants, granting you the following benefits. Tool proficiency. You gain tool proficiency with 3 different artisan's tools of your choice. 3, that's cool. Discount. Whenever you buy a non-magical item, you receive a 20% discount on it. Faster crafting. When you craft an item using a tool with which you have tool proficiency, the required crafting time is reduced by 20%.
This just sounds like you're part of a union.
Yeah.
All right.
3 different ones.
Okay, everybody listen. I hate this feat. This is the only feat in this document that I really dislike, specifically for the idea it says discount. Whenever you buy a non-magical item, you receive a 20% discount on it. What do you even mean? Like, what,
Why does being a crafter help with that?
Well, one, sure, yes, on the lore side of it. 2, don't make me do math. Don't make me as the DM doing more math. They're like, how much is that piece of rope? And I'm like, 6 silver. And they're like, I get 20% off. And I'm like, 20%, 6 is 20. I don't want to have to do that every time they want to buy random garbage at the town, trading post. Don't make me do this.
The thing that gets me about this is that when you craft an item using a tool with which you have proficiency, blah, 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 the required crafting time is reduced by 20%. First of all, I feel like that should already be true to some extent, where it's like, what's the point?
If you know how to use the tool, you're better at it.
Right. But also D&D's concept of how long it takes to craft things is absolutely wild. For anyone who crafts things in real life, you're like, oh, I want to knit my party member a scarf. Just, for funsies. And then it's like, okay, that'll take 7 years. And you're like, what? No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
Yeah. The current rules of D&D crafting explicitly only care about the monetary value and of the rarity of the item you're trying to make, irrelevant of how hard to work with the materials themselves are. It just cares about how much they cost. And if it costs this much money, then that means if it's a legendary item, that means it costs X amount of money, and that means it takes X amount of years to make.
But if I'm basing it off of how much it costs, and I get a 20% discount when I buy it costs 20% less for me.
And that's why you make it 20% faster. There you go.
Hey, kids,
I hate
time
it.
is Time is money, okay? Time is money and money is
All right,
time.
who
totally-
let Uncle Tortilla Chip out of in here? Get him that, whatever your uncle's name
You
was.
look, I'm telling you,
Uncle
these are new.
Uncle
The hint
Guacamole.
it's hint of lime
Oh,
this
no, hey,
time.
get out of here. Oh, here's
Okay.
my hot take. Instead of this boring feat, just make a crafting system that's good.
Okay, dang. Throw some
The hot
shade,
take.
Mercy. I think there is some space in here for a cool crafter feat. I just don't like this one. My feedback is try again. Do it again, but better. Let's move on.
Healer, first level feat. Prerequisite, none. Repeatable, no. You have the training and intuition to administer first aid and other care effectively, granting you the following benefits. Battle Medic. If you have a healer's kit, you can expend 1 use of it and tend to a creature within 5 feet of you as an action. That creature can expend 1 of its hit dice, and you then roll that die. The creature regains a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. Healing rerolls. Whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell or with this feat's Battle Medic benefit, you can re-roll the die if it rolls a 1, and you must use the new roll. It's interesting to note that the currently existing feat, I think, has been retconned because they realized like no one was taking it because it was, as we in the business say, bad. So what the original healer feat was, you can use a healer's kit to stabilize a dying creature. It automatically regains 1 hit point. So that was a way without magic that you could bring people back from unconscious. And then as an action, you can also spend one use of a healer's kit to tend to a creature and restore 1d6 plus 4 hit points to it. And then this, I think, has been errated, plus additional hit points equal to the creature's maximum number of hit dice.
That
That's a
makes it better
weird
than a lot of
number.
healing spells.
Yeah, well, because I think that's what they realized is no one was using this because it's like it's basically a bad cure wounds, which is already kind of an inefficient spell healing wise.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, it gives you amazing healing, but you can only use it once per short or long rest. And then when they go back to this, when they do the Battle Medic, it just kind of goes back to the low levels of healing that it used to be. And I have a feeling that, I mean, unless it's literally handed out for free at character creation, no one's really going to choose to take this because it just kind of goes right back down to the same problem of like, well, if I can heal slightly better, but that's not really how the game doesn't really reward healing slightly better. It rewards healing at key moments in the way the mechanics work with being unconscious and being brought back to consciousness. So healing more healing a moderately amount more doesn't actually make a difference. It's either going to be healing big or healing at the right time is going to be important.
Lucky. This is one of my favorites. Let's see what they did with it. First level feat, prerequisite none, repeatable no. You have an inexplicable luck that could kick in at just the right moment, granting you the following benefits. Luck points. You have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus. You can spend the points on the benefits below, and you regain your expended luck points when you finish a long rest. Advantage. Immediately after you roll a d20 for a d20 test, you can spend 1 luck point to give yourself advantage on the roll. Disadvantage. When a creature rolls a d20 for an attack roll against you, you can spend 1 luck point to impose disadvantage on that roll. So it's actually not that different.
It is better and worse than the original Lucky one in very specific ways. So it's a nice shakeup.
Before, basically, you could re-roll a roll you did or a roll an enemy did 3 times a day. That was pretty much it. With the similar rules that you got to say it afterwards, which is always a nice feeling because you roll like a 2 and you're like, actually, I'm lucky, and then you can re-roll it again.
But now this one explicitly is using the rules of advantage and disadvantage as opposed to just the original Lucky feat says, roll another dice, and of the dice you've rolled, you get to pick.
Oh, that's right, because sometimes advantage and disadvantage don't stack. Like if you already have advantage.
When advantage and disadvantage clash with each other, they just cancel each other out no matter how many times.
Yes, because this happened to me in one of our very first campaigns ever. My very first campaign ever, first feat I ever took was the lucky feat. And I rolled a 1, and I had advantage on it. And I went, oh, I have advantage. And I rolled a 1 again. And I went, oh, you know what? I'm lucky. And I rolled it again, and I got a 1.
Yeah.
I got 3 1s in a row, like precisely, which we've calculated, like the odds of that happening, and they're like 1 billion
Yeah, I
to
think
1
that
or something
proves that
like
you're
that.
not lucky.
Yeah.
It does prove I'm not lucky. But that wouldn't work in this one because if I already
have
had
advantage.
advantage, I wouldn't be able to say
gain it again.
I'm lucky.
Interesting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or if an enemy has advantage against you, you would say disadvantage, which just means that they don't
It's a
roll
flat roll.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas before, if an enemy attacked you with advantage, you could actually turn their advantage into super disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because you could roll a third dice for their attack and then choose whatever was the lowest one.
Because was it true with Lucky you had to take the new one, or you could choose which one
You could
want?
choose any of
Yeah,
the dice.
because that's how luck works.
Yeah.
You know, it's you choose the best one.
It is also interesting to note that literally what we were talking about last episode, where it doesn't make a lot of sense if after you've already made the roll to give a roll advantage, and this explicitly does that. Immediately after you roll a d20 for a d20 test, you can spend 1 luck point and make that roll with advantage.
I'm curious if they're just trying to use the phrase advantage and disadvantage rather than saying re-roll.
Well, I think
Because maybe they're just trying to standardize that.
I think they're purposefully doing that to tie it into other mechanics in the game, like to socket it into stuff that asks about advantage or disadvantage. For example, a rogue who takes the lucky feat
Sneak attack,
can
yeah.
sneak attack whenever they feel like, 3 times a day.
Because they can
That's
just
true.
give themselves
They can
advantage.
just give
A
themselves
human
advantage.
rogue can do
That's
it 4
a really
times a
good
day.
point. So that's a benefit to Lucky that the old version of Lucky didn't have, even though on its surface it feels like a nerf.
And if on any of those advantage rolls you give yourself, you happen to roll a natural 20, you get inspiration, which you keep around. You can do it again.
That was one thing I'm wondering about is it would be interesting to see in playtesting how useful is Lucky or confusing is this version of Lucky with inspiration going around a lot more? Is it going to be a situation where you're trying to keep track of which thing you just used to give yourself
Which
advantage?
thing that gives me advantage?
Or
yeah,
do you end up
did I
having
use?
like extra ones you don't
Which
even
is- ooh.
use?
You actually bring up a really good point, Mercy. This explicitly says you do it after the roll, whereas inspiration had explicitly said you have to do it before the roll. And that is maybe a little bit at odds. Maybe they should both be one or the other, or
Well,
they might
being
be
lucky is
attempting
different.
to do that purposefully to give them unique flavors.
That unique
Yeah.
flavor. It is also to kind of go back on a point too. This scales with your proficiency. So whereas the original lucky feat you only ever had 3 luck points, you start with less luck points with this, but you eventually can end the game with like 6.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty
And-
spicy every day.
And now rogues aren't having to go, do I have sneak attack? And the DM goes, why would you have sneak attack?
Yeah.
You can just be like, I have it.
The really cool thing for me is that both alert and lucky would be good rogue features, but for like different reasons, and you could feel
different
like different
flavor.
rogues, and I like that a lot.
I hope that it wouldn't be something in playtesting that ends up feeling kind of bad, that I feel like you'd almost have to really enforce as a DM saying that you're using inspiration before you roll, or else it might feel kind of unfair, like lucky isn't worth it because it's not giving you that extra benefit. Like if you let somebody say, oh wait, I meant to use inspiration on that, and then roll again even though they're supposed to say it before, then your person who took lucky feels like, why did I take this feat if I'm not even like getting that?
Doesn't
That's
give me a
supposed to be a
different
special extra part of it.
Maybe.
And I would be interested to see in playtesting, do people not forget to say inspiration as much, or does that feel bad, or how does that shake out?
Yeah, because that's kind of what I'm wondering is that a purposeful design they made it different, or is this just in playtest material they didn't realize they made one after and one before, and they
Yeah.
intended for them to both be the same, either before or after. I don't know
Sure.
whichever one.
As someone who's favored this feat, I think I would miss it just being a reroll, because the ability that even if you suck on an advantage to say no, but I still have one chance to make this good. That feels like being a lucky person, and I think that's what makes it feel special. So now having it just be this thing that might not even add up, I don't know.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about before in the previous episode with the protection fighting style, where it's like sometimes getting advantage on something doesn't help. Sometimes giving disadvantage on something doesn't help.
Right.
Sometimes it's a
Right.
huge difference, like with sneak attack, but
Like
you never know.
statistically speaking, it's a very big thing. But sometimes the attack was always going to hit anyways. Sometimes it was going to miss anyways. So there's no reason. You know?
Definitely. Before we move on, Bean, you did start it by saying the Lucky Feet, and Lucky Feet is probably my third favorite Penguin movie.
What's your second favorite?
My
That's the one
second
where they-
favorite Penguin movie is probably Surf's Up.
That's only your second favorite, unless March of the Penguins
You
is
have
your
to
first
ask.
favorite.
You have to ask me. Ask me.
What's your first favorite?
The
Penguin
Adventures
movie?
of Scamper the Penguin.
It's also definitely Happy Feet.
I know it's Happy Feet. Oh no.
Oh my god! Oh no! That's the joke.
The Adventures of Scamper the Penguin was an animated movie about a blue penguin, and he goes on adventures. It's a good
That's a
one.
great penguin name.
That sounds so
Scamper
good.
the Penguin. Magic Initiate. First level feat. Prerequisite. None. Repeatable. Yes. But you must choose a different spell list each time. You have learned the basics of a particular magical tradition. Choose one spell list. Arcane, Divine, or Primal. You gain the following benefits related to that choice. 2 cantrips. You learn 2 cantrips of your choice from the spell list. First level spell. Choose one first level spell from the spell list. You always have that spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. You can also cast the spell using any spell slots you have. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for these spells. Choose when you select this feat. Consult the player's handbook for the rules on spell casting. Whenever you gain a new level, you can replace one of the spells you chose for this feat with a different spell of the same level from the chosen spell list. So the cantrips or the first level spell, every time you level up, you can swap one of them out.
I think this would be really useful for warlocks, less useful for wizards. Just in
Well,
terms of warlocks having so few spells that they're working with.
Well, you can also do it as just anybody, though. You can do it as a fighter. You can do it as a
Well, but
barbarian.
a wizard could then take Eldritch Oh no.
Well, what's really important about this, I mean, this is basically what Magic Initiate was already, except because the schools of magic are no longer separated by class, they are separated by
spell list.
by spell list, with the arcane, with the primal, and the divine. This opens up a kind of a bunch of different options that you can pick and choose from that you didn't really have the ability to do before, because sometimes you wanted a cantrip that was on the cleric spell list. Oh, but it's but the first level spell you want is on the arcane spell list or something, or the wizard spell list. That limitation still exists, but there's no longer like, this is a bard spell and this is a wizard spell and this is a sorcerer spell. So you can mix and match that way. But the other big important thing is this lets you choose the modifier that you use for the spell, which is not the case for the original Magic Initiate, and has been the case for subsequent feats that have come out that teach you spells and give you free uses of them. But so, you can use Shillelagh with intelligence now, if you want to make a melee intelligence based warrior and stuff like that, which is kind of a big deal because it allows you to not put so much points into strength or dexterity as you would have to in order to do the same thing. There's any number of things you can mess around with.
Really...
That first level spell can be really potent, especially now that it can be upcast, because you can use your own existing spell slots as well.
And what's the best first level spell?
Shield.
Probably.
Absolutely.
You'll take shield.
Magic
But
mouth.
imagine casting.
That's a second level spell and you know it.
Why is it a second level spell? Sorry.
But imagine casting shield, but it's charisma based, and it's because you're a arcane trickster rogue or something. Like it's like you can now like mix and match this stuff in very interesting ways.
If you are confused about the arcane, divine, and primal stuff we're talking about with the spell list, listen to the last episode.
On Rules Glossary. Yeah, overall though, this feat I think is really interesting in how it only tweaks the original version of this feat a little bit to fit into this new system, but it actually has very big ramifications. Like the ripples from it change a lot of how the feat will operate.
It's much more customizable and adjustable to your individual character's needs. Whereas like before, you know, if I wanted to take Find Familiar as my first level spell, which is a very good spell to have, you have to take the wizard spell list, which means that you have to use intelligence on the 2 cantrips that you get for free. So unless you are an intelligence-based character, that aspect of it kind of gets thrown to the wayside and isn't as useful. Whereas with this, if you're like a charisma-based person, like say I was a swashbuckling rogue who has really high charisma, and I wanted to have a friend with me, you know, and so I take Magic Initiate, and I can do the Arcane spell list, which lets me take Find Familiar, which then lets me take 2 Arcane. That lets me take 2 Arcane cantrips that I can then choose Charisma to be it, even though the spells are from the Wizard spell list.
I mean, it does prevent you from... It's nice to have these spell lists that, like, oh, anyone can take from them, except you can't if you are crap in the ability that it takes to cast it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
Musician, first level feat. Prerequisite, none. Repeatable, no. You are a practiced musician, granting you the following benefits. Instrument training. You gain tool proficiency with 3 musical instruments of your choice. Inspiring song. As you finish a short rest or a long rest, you can play a song on a musical instrument with which you have tool proficiency and give inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you can affect in this way equals your proficiency bonus. I like that sits right next to the Bardic Song of Rest ability without overlapping it as being the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were a bard, you could still take this one and it would be useful.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. They have started realizing that they don't want feats to clash with class abilities in what you want to do. So you can benefit from this. You can even not be a bard and it doesn't step on the bard's toes that is in your party.
In fact, it would be great if you, as not the bard, took this, and the bard has Song of Rest, and then you just do
Play
your
a
duo
duet
performance, and everybody gets tons of benefits.
And then we get the band back together. I've been saying it for years.
It is interesting to note, as I've said multiple times in this already, that musician and crafter seem to be kind of echoes of what the original skilled feat was, because what the original skilled feat was, you can pick 3 of any combination of skills and or tools, which included like musical instruments. And because this one gives you 3 musical instruments, crafter gives you 3 artisan tools and stuff like that. And the video I was watching, particularly the commentator on it, was just saying, like, I've never heard of a single person who ever wanted to take the skilled feat to add 3 musical instruments to their repertoire.
But see, at least what this does now, because before what happened is you were skilled, and then you... Mm-hmm. If you took like a tool, what would you do with that? Because often you're like, I'm good at carpentry, and usually your DM's like, I don't know what to do with that. But this actually gives you specific things that you're able to do with those things, so it encourages people to take that, and never underestimate people who want to play for flavor.
Oh no, but that's the thing. It's like anyone can play for flavor, but they also recognized, and that's why they added the second ability, that like just giving someone musical instrument proficiency is not worth a whole feat, even if it's free.
Good thing. Well, I always carry around 8 musical instruments. That's my character. So actually, this is great for me.
Especially if you were a bard already, and if you took the entertainer background or whatever, this means you would have 7 musical instrument proficiencies.
We all know someone like that. You're just one of those walking bands. You're Bert from Mary Poppins.
You're Bert from Mary Poppins.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that.
Okay. Savage Attacker. First level feat, prerequisite, none. Repeatable, no. You have trained to deal particularly damaging strikes. When you take the attack action and hit a target with a weapon as part of that action, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. You can use this benefit only once per turn.
It's really really interesting. I do have to say right up top, though, you know how there's that constant running joke of like, not a good enough excuse to use the word moist or whatever.
Yeah.
Not a good enough excuse to use the word savage. Like, it's just a word that has a lot of negative connotations in a lot of contexts. Let's find another one. Let's just find another one. For a lot of communities, it's a word that has a bad history that we'd like to just move past. It could be called vicious attacker. That's fine.
Ooh.
Something like that. It doesn't. Not a good enough excuse to use the word. But it's a cool ability.
Yeah.
Mercy, I saw your face light up.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, finally, I love that you basically get advantage on something that isn't your check.
Yeah.
It's
Like
like 20
damage
check.
advantage.
I really like that advantage on the damage dice. I think that's cool.
This is much better than the currently existing Savage Attacker feat, which was very much like other re-roll mechanics of like, when you roll damage, you can once per turn decide to re-roll it again, but you have to keep the second roll.
Right.
So even if the second roll was lower, you have to keep it.
Isn't great.
So this does let you always improve your damage, but like, even if you're rolling with d12s with those great axes, this adds a negligible amount of damage per turn. It's the fundamental breakdown is like, it feels cool to roll the dice, but it's not really having that big of an effect on the gameplay.
You know what I think is good about this from a, motivating people to play the way you want them to kind of way is that I feel like flavor-wise, this lends itself well to, like you're saying, somebody with a great axe rolling 1d12 or something, but people don't take, at least in my personal anecdotal experience, people don't tend to take those weapon options as often because statistically you don't tend to do as much damage as like 2d6s is more damage than 1d12 on average. But if you feel like you're using one big giant weapon doing one big giant hit and then you do one damage, that just doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
and so
feels
people
good.
don't like that option. But this
It helps mitigate the variance.
yeah, this is obviously flavored for that kind of a character. And now, statistically, you're giving yourself advantage on that d12, which is going to, on average, make your rolls bigger and better and make you hit harder. So it'll motivate people to actually take that play style, which I really like.
I just think it should be called Damn Vantage.
I was trying to figure that out, Bean. Add damageage?
No, 'cause
I think Damn Vantage is the
Damn Vantage.
Damn Vantage is pretty good. That's, yeah, I mean, you got it right. You hit it right on the head the first time.
That's my stage name with SAG, actually.
Damn
Vantage.
It is I, Damn Vantage.
Dame Vantage.
Yeah, that's my femme fatale
Damn
name.
Vantage is really good.
That's
You're
pretty
like a
good.
Bond girl.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Bean, hit us with the next one.
Skilled. This is my other must taken feat. First level feat. Prerequisite none. Repeatable? Yes. You have exceptionally broad learning. Choose 3 skills in which
You didn't have to make it sound so sensual. Bean.
You've got exceptionally broad learning.
Sorry. You look at this exceptional broad. I mean,
That's
this-
that's my other Bond girl name, Broad Learning. I'm like a
Exceptional broad.
sexy librarian.
Okay, I have to read this. You have exceptionally broad learning. Choose 3 skills in which you lack proficiency. You gain proficiency in those skills.
Ooh.
Get good.
I mean,
it's just
yeah.
another
Good,
way of
thank
putting
you.
it.
Yeah.
It's that third trifecta of the skilled feat that has been separated out. For this one, you don't get any extra special benefits other than this specific feat is repeatably
Well,
able to be taken repeatably.
The special benefits is that these are skills that are likely to actually be used in gameplay, whereas before things like carpentry or a bagpipe didn't have a understandable like mechanical laid out use in gameplay. So being like, oh no, I'm really good at lockpicking or I'm really good at stealthing, that comes up a lot.
Yeah,
Usually
totally.
I play not as high wisdom characters, and so being able to just go, and I'm good at perception,
And bolster
don't worry,
your weaknesses.
is really
Like-
all I need to
Right.
do.
like they originally wanted us to do, where you're
Yeah.
bolstering your weaknesses as opposed to hyper focusing.
I
Yep.
think that like you're saying, Onog, the repeatability of this one is what kind of saves it for me, because on its own, it kind of feels like not enough for a feat. But the idea that I could just like keep taking it or take it at any point whenever I just feel like I need to round out some skills, It's not
But yeah,
bad.
if you need to be proficient in every skill by level 4, this is your man.
You can go there.
Don't underestimate just adding 3 skill proficiencies.
Yeah,
no,
Because
for
if there are
sure.
things that come up, I think one thing that might make it nice is if it said if you're already proficient, add expertise.
I was just
Too
thinking
much.
about
That'd be
that,
a
but I
little
think
intense.
that
That
steps
might
on
be
the
too
toes
much.
too much.
Too powerful.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
power
we
gamer
already-
moves.
I want to be powerful.
Well, that's the thing, is that might eventually become a feat because we already have the skill expert feat that
maybe
exists.
like the advanced version.
So there
of
might be
skill.
like
so
a
I-
5th level or whatever, a 4th level version
Like-
of this that's like skill expert.
Yeah, prerequisite. You already have.
You have
skilled.
taken the skilled feat. Yeah.
that
could
actually
make
that
sense.
actually brings up
cool.
that actually brings up another thing that Jeremy Crawford talked about in the video, is they didn't want any of the first level feats to be what people call quote unquote half feats, where like skill expert you get a +1 to one of your stats as well. And so they didn't because one of the problems with having human variants and customized lineage races is that they realized people were just taking them just to have the feat because numbers wise that's just better than taking any of the other races. And specifically with the custom lineage, they get a +2 to any one stat, and then if they take a half feat as their free feat at first level, they can get +1 in any stat they want. So they are the only race that gets a +3 in
That's
any stat
to
they
start
want. That's something they explicitly wanted to avoid. So you'll notice none of these feats
give you
give
skill
you
increase.
stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I find this interesting because you could just never ever uptick your actual modifiers, like your base numbers, and you could just keep taking skilled over and over again. And at a certain point, it wouldn't matter.
At a certain point, like you
Well,
will be,
but you've
you
covered
will be
all
the
of them
skill
eventually.
monkey, but
Yeah.
you will be
Your saving
dead.
throws suck, but boy oh boy,
Right.
can you pick locks and sneak.
Well, that's
and
the
talk to
thing.
people.
Your specific skill checks would be good, but then whenever it's like, give me a wisdom
Saving throw,
save, wisdom check, it's like you're screwed.
And eventually, you literally would have all the skills covered, so taking it again wouldn't gain you anything, because you can only gain it in a skill in which you lack proficiency.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I was saying it jovially, but
No,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
But-
how it
but that's
actually
the thing.
breaks down.
Tavern Brawler. I feel like it would be more fitting for Bean to read this, as this is the feat Bean has taken, I think, every character since
This
we've
is-
ever started playing D&D. But
okay,
it's very different now. No, I'm reading it. It's me.
You're reading it.
I'm
okay.
doing it.
Do it justice.
Tavern Brawler. First level feat. Prerequisite. None. Repeatable. No. Accustomed to brawling. You gain the following benefits. Enhanced unarmed strike. When you hit with your unarmed strike and deal damage, you can deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of the normal damage of an unarmed strike. Which means, according to the rules glossary, you would get to critical hit on
yeah.
your unarmed strikes. Damage rerolls.
Oh yeah, double 1d4.
2d4
Here I come.
plus strength.
Ooh,
All right.
I took the savage attacker feat. I can roll them twice, and maybe it's a 1 again.
All right. Damage rerolls. Whenever you roll a damage die for your unarmed strike, you can reroll the die if it rolls a 1. You don't even need to take savage attack. You got it right here. And,
Oh wait, savage attacker is only for weapons.
and you must use the new roll. I see. Shove. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn, you can deal damage to the target and also push it 5 feet away. You can use this benefit only once per turn.
Interesting.
Furniture as weapons. You can wield furniture as a weapon, using the rules of the Great Club for small or medium furniture, and the rules of the club for tiny furniture.
Okay, some things about this I really like,
Which
and some
means-
of these things.
Paladins can smite using a chair! Yeah!
Hey, give him the chair.
Give him the chair!
So some of these things I love, and some of these things I am fucking pissed about.
Oh jeez.
Why can't I hug anyone really hard now?
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is kind of the opposite of what the current Tavern Brawler feat is.
Yes.
Because the current Tavern Brawler lets you grapple as a bonus action when you do an
That's
unarmed
like
strike.
kind of the whole reason I take Tavern Brawler is so that just as a part of an attack, I can grab someone.
Is it because
and I don't have to sacrifice. my entire attack. They
Yeah.
kind of changed it.
They definitely
changed
changed
it
how
to
grappling
shoves
works,
instead.
and now they've given
Yeah.
you
Is that
the
how
shoving.
grappling works now?
Well, no, I mean
No,
they've more semantically changed how grappling works. The original Tavern Brawler feat should still work with the way the new grappling rules work. They've just decided that instead of grappling, you get a free shove instead of a free grapple. And it's like, if you're trying to get up close and personal to
Why
someone,
would you shove them away from you?
shoving them away from you is kind of the opposite of what you're doing.
I like furniture as weapons, and I get that it's Tavern Brawler, but really what it originally said was improvised
Yeah,
weapons.
that
and
is a
so
big
this means
difference.
that if you're not in a place with furniture, or if your DM's like, a pot is not a piece of furniture, then you don't have proficiency with just picking up whatever is near you and hitting someone with it. And I don't know if I
Fair
like
enough,
this.
Fair enough.
This seems to be them definitely trying to be like improvised weapons, and how they were laid out in the original Tavern Brawler feat was too vague.
It was very vague.
And now they have swung back to this is too specific, where it's
Yeah.
like, yes, everyone's favorite weapons that they choose all the time, the Great Club, you know.
Yeah.
We
I
just
think
need to
that
make
this-
improvised weapons have their own like stat blocks. or
I think
whatever.
that this Tavern Brawler actually makes more sense with the image of like a Wild West saloon brawl.
Yeah,
Where you're like,
certainly.
it's a shove because you're throwing them from the balcony and they do the scream.
You kick him
The
out the door
Wilhelm
onto the
scream.
street to fight him in the alley.
And you use the furniture as weapons because you pick up the wicker chair and smash it over his head. Whereas the original one felt more like a medieval brawler of like, you just hold somebody and just punch them in the face over and over again.
I mean, I guess I'm thinking more of like a Penny Dreadful type fight. And the reason I took it though is because it would always stack really well with other people's abilities, because I could hold someone, I could punch someone and immediately hold them, and then I'd like hold them inside the moonbeam, or like, because I basically main rogues and barbarians, and so I could hold them there, and even if it was an area effect spell, if I was raging, it didn't really matter if I was in the area effect spell because it didn't hurt me very much. But that was always the thing, is I would just hold them still so that all my range buddies could pick them off.
Yeah.
You need like a WWE brawler. feat.
Exactly.
It also
rest.
kind of weirdly steps on the toes of the Crusher feat, which was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of all the things that are inside her cauldron.
Yeah.
Because that one says whenever you deal bludgeoning damage, push the target 5 feet any direction you want. Do this only once per turn, which is the exact same thing as the Tavern Brawler shove. And so, does that mean they stack? Is this replacing what Crusher is in the future version of D&D? Because that's basically the exact same thing.
Or is Crusher going to be like a higher level feat that now has changed functionality somehow?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is it? Yeah. Like, is this replacing it? Is this just
Interesting.
adding on to it? What?
If you're
What is going
shoving
on?
someone and it's only 5 feet, it's not very useful, especially if you're doing range attack, because one, there are plenty of weapons that have a 10-foot range.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really make a difference. And 5 feet, they can just immediately walk back to wherever you shoved them from. I guess it like gets them out of your range, like you said. If you're going,
If you need to run away and don't want an opportunity attack to go off on you.
yeah, but usually if you're the kind of person taking Tavern Brawler, you're not going to be the kind of person
To be
who's
running
gonna
away.
Be running
Right,
away.
right.
You're going to be holding. They go boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
walking over to your squishy friend, and you go, no, you don't, and you grab them by the scruff of their collar and you
I
keep them
think
there.
going by what they had talked about with their design philosophy earlier, the bard will want to take the musician feat, and the healer, the life cleric, will want to take the healer feat. I don't know if the barbarian wants to take Tavern Brawler, even though that that kind of makes sense of that would be the one the barbarian or the fighter might take. I don't know if they care about it really.
Change shove for grapple, and
Yeah.
literally then I would be fine with it.
Interestingly, though, the way that this lands now, the one class that would like to take the Tavern Brawler feat that absolutely despised the Tavern Brawler feat before in the original versions is Monk.
Yeah,
That's true.
And
This
monks
This actually
are now,
benefits monks greatly.
with the new grappler rules. Monks also they've got a lot more utility there because they can hit with unarmed strikes and grapple, and they can hit with unarmed strikes on most ACs. Yeah.
Yeah, they can hit with unarmed strikes, and with the reroll, because their unarmed strike die is bigger because of their martial arts, they gain statistically more benefit from that, and especially Way of the Open Palm monks, they're already like area control guys. They can knock you back 15 feet. Well, if they hit you with the knock you back 15 feet and one of these unarmed strike shoves that you can do once per turn, you can push somebody around 20 feet.
Here's an idea. Take away the furniture as weapons paragraph in your mind for a second. Keep the 3 and rename this to like martial artist. And now it makes sense why the monk would maybe want to take it. And it makes sense of why, even if you're not a monk, you might, for flavor reasons, do this. And it means that you're good even without your weapons. Like, you've got some benefits even with no weapons on you if you're a fighter who, like, trained as a martial artist without having to multi-class into monk or something like that. Whereas there could be a different feat that hits the same flavor as the original Tavern Brawler with improvised weapons and grappling. It kind of feels like this is like the wrong name for this feat now, and they might need to change the flavor of it.
I do think that there's a little... I personally, I guess, just am not feeling as strongly that Tavern Brawler necessarily screams barbarian. I think it does because that's what we associate it, because the existing feat with that name screams barbarian. Yeah. But a Tavern Brawler is like punching. That's like punching, which is monks.
That is true.
Not tanking as much, which is barbarians. Like, this is making me picture, especially furniture as weapons. I just am immediately picturing sequences from Jackie Chan movies where he's punching in a fight in a like tavern, breaking chairs over people's heads and shoving them over balconies. And so I honestly am okay with it. I think you just have to realize that this one's not for barbarians actually, and that needs to be replaced with a different
just a
feat.
reframing. Yeah. Okay, interesting.
What we have here is actually an Enter the Dragon feat.
Yeah,
is what this
true.
is one person standing in the middle with a circle of goons around them,
and they keep shoving them away.
Yep.
So that
that's
they're
what I'm
able
saying.
to,
Is
like,
it makes sense for like a martial arts movie.
That's a Jackie Chan sequence for sure. Yeah.
So maybe with a bit of a flavor adjustment, it would make more sense.
Hold on, real quick. I'm coming to a terrifyingly dark realization in because we've been talking about grappling and stuff like that, and I realized athletics has nothing to do with grappling anymore.
Yeah, no, it's just about your unarmed strike modifiers.
Did I just get emotional for nothing? Did I just overreact to it a little bit?
No, but that's the thing, is it's like athletics does not govern anything about grappling. Even when you are escaping, it's not athletics or acrobatics, it's just a strength or dexterity saving throw.
Yeah.
Well,
so then the question now returns, what does acrobatics or athletics even do in the game with the way the rules are currently set up?
I mean, it's fair. I ask for you to check them when you break a door down, I guess. I don't know. When you try to lift a rock.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tough. First level feat. Prerequisite, none. Repeatable, no. Your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to twice your character level when you gain this feat. Whenever you gain a level thereafter, your hit point maximum increases by an additional 2 hit points. I mean, talk about stacking with your barbarian.
Yeah.
If you want to just really double down, or to, fill in a weak spot for someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fundamentally it's exact same thing as the current tough feat, except you can take this as part of your background. So that means a hill dwarf who takes the tough feat as part of their background and is a barbarian can have an absurd amount of health. They would start with...
But I don't think hill dwarfs exist in these rules. Nog?
They actually do. They just don't call them hill dwarfs anymore.
That's what
they just
I'm
call
saying.
them dwarfs. But, so, if you were a dwarf and you took this feat as your level 1 feat, and you were a barbarian, and let's say you had a +3 to Constitution, that's a character with a starting hit points of 19, I think, at first level, which is
pretty good.
Kind of absurd.
I don't want to hear any more wizards complaining about being weak. Just take the tough first level feat, idiot. Forehead.
I mean, honestly, especially if you're not interested in any of the other starting feats, if they don't branch them out anymore, taking tough, just having tough as a fallback is not that bad of an idea.
If you're sitting there going, I don't know, if it's like if you're at a restaurant and you're like, I don't know what to get, like just get a hamburger. You know, like it's just like
You
just
know
take
you'll
tough.
like a hamburger.
This is just if you don't know what to get, this is a good one.
You know you like chicken tendies. I think it also
Chicken
can
tendies is
help
better.
round out the idea of like, you know, what's the variability of combat at early levels, where if everyone gets to start with the tough feat or another feat of their choosing, you're going to get killed by random goblin ambushes less often because you'll just be a little squishier. You'll have more hit points to work with.
Yeah, the tough feat is the equivalent, not one-for-one equivalent, but health-wise, it's the equivalent of having +4 to Constitution, like to your overall Constitution score, and therefore your modifier gets increased by 2.
Yeah. Those are all of the feats. We did it.
Man, this eldritch horror sure has many feats.
Many feats. Yes. Many feats is probably my third favorite penguin move. So
Yeah, that joke really landed this time.
it really landed on its feats.
Hey, they brought it back around.
Thanks for listening, traveler. If you enjoyed this episode, tell us your thoughts about these feats in the comments section below. Remember, while you're down there, to like the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our coverage so that we can make sure you get access to all of our future episodes on the 1D&D playtest document. We'll have an episode on backgrounds and an episode on race options coming up very soon.
And remember, there's only one true D&D. And ask your friends if they have time to hear a quick message about the one D&D.
If you have homebrew you'd like us to review on the channel, send it to our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on social media @thecopperfoxinn.
Oh,
And
Mercy's a paladin now.
that means we have reached the end of the dungeon in this Unearthed Arcana Deep Down.
Oh wow, the Sphinx is letting us through the doors.
Oh yeah, there's another. What is this? Big door in front of us. So what's inscribed on there? Can anybody read Infernal? What's the next level of the
It says-
dungeon?
Can anyone translate
He
that?
must have died while writing. And until next time, keep on adventuring.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.